Welcome to Mogobe Nuggets of Wisdom podcast. My name is Mompoloki Lerumo Mogobe. Our objective is to enthuse, inspire, energize, and empower entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs of all stripes here in BW and beyond. We do so by inviting these entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs into our makeshift studio. Sometimes we call them to the restaurant, sometimes we go to our studio, and we ask them to share their experiential knowledge, their experiences and their expertise, and we ask them as many questions as we can, aimed at empowering you also as a viewer. Hello dear viewer, dear listener, my name is Mompoloki Lerumo Mogobe, your host of this wonderful podcast, Mogobe Nuggets of Wisdom podcast. Welcome to yet another exciting episode. It's always a privilege to bring you wonderful, dynamic entrepreneurs across all fields, from all stripes. And do I have a great entrepreneur for you this time? I have Mr. Sebonego Sebonego, who is here. He's going to share on life planning as a pillar for entrepreneurial success. Life planning as a pillar for entrepreneurial success. Welcome to the studio.
Thank you, Mogobe.
Yeah, it's a
great.
makeshift studio here in Black. You're welcome. I know you had to visit Black from time to time.
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I do.
Would you care to tell the viewer who you are in terms of your background and your vocation?
Okay, great stuff. As mentioned, my name is Sebonego N Sebonego. I'm an entrepreneur, but also specifically I'm an executive and life coach. But in addition, I do quite a lot of management consultancy work. So in other words, partnering with executives to help them close gaps within the organization and move the performance needles of the organizations up. But also I'm a project manager when it comes to ICT projects of large value, enterprise resource planning implementations. I lead those and lead teams towards the successful implementation and integration of ICTs into the organization. But that's not all. The other things that I do as well is really run three entities, three businesses. The first being Learning and Growth Consultants, which is really the consultancy
Learning
arm.
and Growth Consultants.
Learning and Growth Consultants, which is really the consulting arm. And that's the one I was referring to, where we partner with executives and implement all sorts of systems, performance management systems, e-learning systems, and quite a number of others as well. The other two entities is, on the beauty space, entity which I run with my wife, and then she leads out more on that side, and I play as a great supporting role.
What do you do with beauty?
Oh, we have a very interesting concept around beauty. For us, beauty is what we call internal and external beauty. So, whilst we may get that haircut, put on that wonderful suit or that wonderful dress, what's also important is that internally, which is partly what we will cover today actually, is who are you and what were you born to do, and therefore we address
discovering your purpose.
Yeah, discovering your purpose. So we assist on the beauty side. We assist clients really with transformation that eventually leads to their own personal brand, because people brand themselves normally by just outward appearance, but we're saying real branding should start with the internal. So we take our clients through that type of a thing.
And the third business?
So the third business, by the way, I didn't mention the names of the two entities. So it's H&H Salon and H&H Boutique, located in Marapula. Great places to be, absolutely epic, different. Clients tell us that they've never seen anything like that in Africa. Some claim they have not seen anything like that in the world. Humbly located in Marapula, and you must visit us.
What's the location? I have to come.
No, you must. I mean, to be bold to make that a statement
No,
means there must be something there.
Yeah.
Yes, we are in Marapula shopping complex. That's where.
So those are the three. You covered three, right?
I've covered three.
Okay.
And then the other one which we're resuscitating this year, and which we've been at, is our horticultural farm. So we're going back to the basics.
I think COVID may have something to do with that.
Yes,
Okay,
yes. Opportunity.
Created an opportunity. Now, in a previous lifetime, I knew as an IT person. What led to the switch, and how did you go about it?
What led to the switch is really, the journey of self-discovery, the journey of personal mastery, the journey of finding your purpose. And it's going to be quite a lot that we're going to cover today that speaks from that experience. So I'm going to share a lot from experience. That's really going to talk to that, because when we say life planning as a pillar of entrepreneurship, it really has to begin with you and who you are.
Let's go right into it and deal with the first aspect. Life planning begins with understanding your purpose.
Yes.
I think this subject of purpose, you cannot exhaust it, the importance of it. But I'd like to hear your take as to the definition before we now break it down.
Yeah. So really, purpose, I'll define it not in the dictionary way, but I'll define it to say, or maybe use a bold statement, borrow from an author called Glenn McCurk. He says you are born Glenn McCurk.
Yes.
He says you are born for a purpose that the world cannot do without. So now that means the definition, really we can borrow from that and say it is that which is unique to you, your unique blueprint, that you then share with the rest of the world. So it has to do with your voice and what you have to give that is unique to you. And it's a combination of things, your skill sets and a couple of other things that we'll go into.
Yeah, let's deal with tools, books, and mentors. The three tools actually.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, right there, if you talk about life planning in the context of entrepreneurship, the key question is, what are you planning for? Because as we know, at times we go about life pursuing certain things, but we are really pursuing them without thought. Are you pursuing status? Are you pursuing possessions? And the advice and my experience is that we should really plan.
Money.
Yeah, some are pursuing money, but my advice is that really pursue who you are first, and plan around who you are. So plan around your purpose. And you talk about the tools. I mean, I've used about 3 tools. One is the spiritual gifts in the inventory tool. As you know, Botswana is a Christian country, so one way or the other, all of us have been exposed to God. And being a Christian as well, I borrowed from 1 Corinthians 12, because in there, it spells out quite a number of gifts. And if you acknowledge that there is a creator, and
gifts of the spirit,
yes, gifts of the spirit, and there are quite a number. And the reason it becomes a good beginning point for discovering your purpose is because, I mean, if you're going to use the cell phone and you don't know how to use it, the best place to go is to go to Samsung. Yeah, if it's a car, go to Mercedes or whoever it is. So in this case, go to the creator and just find out what was it that I was born for. And by reading, by experimenting, by listening to others, by getting involved in activities, the spiritual gifts inventory is a set of questions that eventually hone into your types of gifts. Are you a leader? Do you have the gift of wisdom? Do you have the gift of service? Do you have the gift of healing? Do you have the gift of what? That right there begins saying that is the reason you were born. And when you start reflecting on that and banking it as one of the things you're going to use to help you discover your purpose, it's a good beginning point. The other tool that I've used, and by the way, on those gifts, the reality of it is, as you grow up, people will naturally say, hey, you're good at this. Or even when you're at home, they tend to give you certain activities, and therefore that's where the listening comes in. But the other tool is strength scope. With strength scope, it really it's another set of questionnaires that bring out the strengths that energize you. What are those things?
Do you prepare? Does your company prepare these questions, or are they available somewhere on the
net? They are available as tools, but they are supported by people who have been trained to help you discover. Because the interpretation of those reports are quite a bit complex. You can read them and see yourself in there, but you may need to be assisted as to, yes, indeed,
by someone like yourself.
That's correct, as a life coach. So what strength does is it helps you find those things that energize you, those activities that when you get in and get involved in, you don't have competition in. You're the best at that. So you can imagine that as a pillar of entrepreneurship, already you're kind of gauging, empowering yourself. When you get to be an entrepreneur, to say, look, I know my spiritual gifts, I know my strengths, and therefore I can perform at my peak. All right. In my case, it was interesting that the strengths that came out for me were like, persuasiveness, strategic mindedness, self-confidence and all that. So when you begin approaching life,
being very articulate, one of them.
well, yes, and so when you approach life, therefore, you're approaching life from your position of strength, and you shy away from those activities that you're not strong in, because we're an ecosystem. You allow others to play their role whilst you play yours. Yeah.
And you talked of, books and mentors as being part of the...
Yes, books, believe it or not, you'd recall, Mogobe, I must confess, I've had a life-changing experience. I think it was 2006. You've been my coach and my mentor since then. And that chat that we had, and a couple of others as well, where you really pinned me down, is speaking to what you're talking about. Because if you're going to find...
You came to me as a lawyer originally.
Yes, it was originally as a lawyer.
Ended up
yes.
elsewhere.
But before that, you were a neighbor co-extension to you, and then obviously, naturally, you get inclined to go and get service from people, So I went to you as a lawyer. But then obviously, conversations got stuck there. My wife had also been pushing me in certain directions, but I had a blind spot I couldn't see. So as part of discovering your purpose, what mentors do and the role they play is they see potential in you that you don't see, and therefore they really push you. So it's important that you listen to them. And at that time, you also recommended a couple of books. The Brazilian author,
as I recall,
the Brazilian author Paulo, The Alchemist. So that's a great book. It's an excellent book. And then there's a couple of others. I recommend as well Map for Life by Glenn McCurk. He really helps unearth that.
I think I remember going to buy that with you.
Yes, books, absolutely, yes. And it's the tool that I use as well for life coaching, and it's the tool that most of the principles that I'm going to bring out as well, and that I've applied in my life come out. Because you cannot go into the entrepreneurial complex, difficult space without these foundational items.
Especially if you want to win.
If you want to win, yes, you must sharpen.
Otherwise, you may just be wanting to pass time or to play games.
No, absolutely, absolutely. So yes, those are the tools that you that I use as a basis of building onto entrepreneurship.
Okay, are you able to actually track the differences in terms of, in a time-space continuum, the differences that these mentors had in your life? Are you able to say, I was here, now I'm here?
Absolutely. Believe it or not, there was a time when I had 3 mentors. Okay, you were my first, and then came Glenn, and then came Dr. Kopanompuang. She was my strengths, and still is my strengths coach. And Glenn is really around purpose and life planning. And out of that, each one, first, the push that first came from my first mentor, which was you, was around confidence and believing in yourself. Because like I had mentioned, if you getting pushed, or you have certain abilities, but you keep depending on others, or you keep working for people. When you actually have the ability. So I got a push from there. So the first thing must be a push.
I said, if you don't quit,
I'm surprised you remember that.
If you don't quit there, I'm going to take action against you.
Yes, and you actually said, don't ever come back here.
Yeah.
And that was necessary. It was necessary, because believe it or not, do you know that the following month, I actually made the decision, I quit. And I quit that month, and on the day I quit, that is when I first went to Register of Companies to go and register my first company. And I didn't know what I'm going to earn by end of month. And I had a family already. So that push, like you were saying, what contribution? So coaches and mentors push you to that level, and it's important to have one. Then the other one, as mentioned, was really around strengths. And they brought up my strengths and brought out the synergies on how I interact with teams. So when we embark on projects, when we embark on activities, I know my role, and I play it very well, and I lead out in that area while I allow others to play in their space. Yeah.
Now let's take the conversation a bit further, because I want the viewer to really hone in on how you approach this, based also on your personal life. Determine where you want to be.
Yes.
Your destination.
Yes. So
after you've established your position.
That's correct. So before you go to determining your destination, remember we've spoken, you have found your purpose now.
Yeah.
Okay, so the assumption is you've done your homework, you've used the tools, you found your purpose, and you're ready now to go into the complex world, you see, the complex world, the challenging world of entrepreneurship. And what better way would it be to kind of look at the natural life that we live? I mean, we're here, let's assume that there's a business conversation as an example. So that's an aspect of your life. Once we leave here, we're going, in the evening we're home. And that's an aspect of our lives, that's family. You know, on weekends, people go out to church, some go out to relax. So taking time off and relaxing is one aspect of your life. And so is your spirituality, one aspect of your life. But, you know, we're all about building financial wealth. So that means that's another aspect of life. And we mentioned books. So reading, growing your intellectual ability, learning from others is another pillar. And then business and career. So in other words, if you are going to plan, you must know where you are in those areas. Because
that's why you say establish your position.
Yes, establish your position. Where am I? What is my status?
How do you go about doing that? Is it just an evaluation through filling a questionnaire, or there's more to it than that?
Yeah, well, there are tools and tactics around it. Simply spoken, just draw a wheel, just draw a circle, okay, and place those different areas in that circle. So spirituality, business and entrepreneurship, my financial wealth, and ask yourself, at the core of it is my purpose. And my purpose is what is driving and informing my progression in each one of these areas, right? And then you ask yourself, okay, where am I currently in terms of my desires around family, my desires around business, my desires around wealth? Where am I on a scale of 1 to 5? And you might say, as far as intellectual growth, I haven't been a great reader, so I'll score myself 3. When it comes to family, all I'm doing well, I spend time with the children, I spend time with my wife, I visit my grandparents. Okay, then I'm scoring myself at 8. So once you score yourself
out of 10,
it gives you a visual picture of whether you have a balance or not. Because one of the things to be successful as an entrepreneur, if you don't have a balance of these things, they're going to come biting you. Because you might have issues at home that affect your clarity on how you become and hold into your entrepreneurship.
I've over the years been gravitating away from the idea of balance to the idea of harmony, because of the fact that balance implies equal measure. So I'm more interested in that, and I think it's just from my reading on the idea of things being harmonious. A couple of successful people have made me to think along harmony as opposed to balance. I wonder what your take is on that.
My take is it's on point. Actually, the reason why you put them in a wheel and you draw, when you join the dots, you're going to see that there's no harmony, because if I scored an 8, it means the curve is like this. If I scored a 3, it means I'm going down. If I scored an 8, now there can't be harmony when I'm spending more time in one area less than the other. Okay, but like you're saying, to be successful in life, the definition of true success is when there's harmony in all these things, and they're moving together one or the other, and none of them is lacking. If I'm not going to take care of my health, eventually I'm going to be in hospital and my business is going to suffer. Okay, so yeah, that is why as part of planning what it is you want to do as an entrepreneur, you must begin with where are you in these areas.
Okay. Principle, life management precedes time management.
Absolutely.
There's often a confusion between time management and life management. What are the subtle distinctions?
Yeah. You know, time management is when you just wake up and get into activities and you know, I'm here, you know, on this podcast today, and then immediately I leave, I'm running for a meeting. After the meeting, I'm going into another activity, and so forth and so on. So these are independent, ad hoc type activities. They are not giving you a direction and a sense of where am I going in terms of my life. Okay, so when we say life management precedes time management, in other words, the general direction that you're going in life comes first before you start managing time. Yeah, have clarity on where am I going in life. If it's around my entrepreneurial endeavors, where am I taking this? If it's around my purpose, where am I taking this? That comes first before getting into planning and saying this is where I want to go. So, and in terms of determining the destination, which was your question earlier.
Yes.
I'm an entrepreneur and I want to determine where am I going. The best place to begin, trust me, is to borrow from the the greatest nation. Yeah, borrow from the greatest nation. And that nation is imagination. Okay.
That's a very interesting concept.
Yeah.
Imagination is a nation.
Is a nation. And it is the greatest nation.
The first time in my life I've heard it referred to that way.
Yeah, and it is the greatest nation.
Why you want to call it a nation?
It's because all the things we see around us, were imagined first. Yeah, whether it's that big tower of a building that we see, whether it's this laptop, whether it's this chair, all of them began with imagination. So if I am going to want to say I'm going to pursue something, take time and brainstorm. Brainstorm without the limitation of resources coming into your mind, without the limitation of ability coming into mind, without the limitation of I don't have money. Think the world is out there to conquer. Botswana is out there to conquer. Think big. All right. And the moment you do that, it puts you in an advantage point that says these things are possible. Like I always say, if you think it and you ink it, it's possible.
That's a teachable comment right there. That's a teachable statement.
Yeah. If you think it and you ink it, it's possible. And the reason why the two are important is because we often brainstorm and then we don't take time with a pen to literally write down these things. Because if it is not on paper, it is vapor. Another tweetable one.
Yes. Highly tweetable.
Yeah.
Life management versus time management.
Yes.
I'm going to take you back to that.
Okay.
Yeah. The distinctions.
So the key distinction is don't manage activity without knowing the general direction of life that you are going. Because you're going to manage activity in a chaotic way or in a non-harmonious way. One time you are pushing this type of activity, the other one you're pushing one that's going in a different direction. And then eventually when we are to measure you 3 years later, what have you accomplished? There's nothing that has come up, but you've been a busybody. You've been a busy entrepreneur because you didn't manage life first.
Okay.
Yeah.
As opposed to just managing your time.
Yes.
Okay. Now let's process method of determining one's destination.
Okay. So we spoke about brainstorming and imagining. Thereafter you categorize. So in other words, I've got a list. And remember that list is in the aim, like you talked about, is the harmony. So I'm doing a list that is saying, what are my desires? What are the desires of my heart around family, around business, around financial wealth, around rest and restoration and seeing the rest of the world? What are those desires? So you've listed all of them in those 8 areas. And then you then categorize them and say, out of this list of things I want to do, which ones are short term? Which ones are medium term and which ones are long term. That is where now when we say life planning becomes a pillar of entrepreneurship, because you can't achieve anything, or let me put it the other way, everything that we see one way or the other was planned for and designed. Let's look at this bottle.
Yes, that's
there was some
Mohammed. Yes.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah.
This
in a
was
previous
designed.
episode, it talks about this being inspired by the shape of a diamond or something.
Precisely. Whether it's this glass, whether it's my specs, whether it's everything, whether it's a table, it began with somebody sitting down and literally drawing. Now the key question is, which one is more important? These things, these desks, or my life?
Obviously your life.
Oh yeah. Then why is it that I go about life and my entrepreneurship without planning? Why is it that I go about it and expect success without taking pen and paper and literally writing it down? Okay. If that building is still standing as it is today, the I Towers, if it's still standing today and it's going to stand the next 100 years, it was because of the precise planning. So the success that's going to come out of your entrepreneurial endeavors
depend on the level of planning.
They depend on the level of planning. So brainstorm, categorize short-term, medium-term, long-term, and then out of those, reprioritize again and say, what are the top 3? Reprioritize again and see what are the top 2.
Okay, just so the viewer understands, tell us a bit about your training as a coach in terms of your accreditation, and say a word or two about those who might be watching, interested in following your footsteps.
Yes. Well, I've been through the Map for Life Institute.
Which one?
Map for Life Institute. It's based in Pretoria in South Africa. They played a great role in terms of establishing, my coaching career. And in there is a gem and a wealth of information that you cannot finish, because the Institute borrows from quite a lot of renowned authors, the late Miles Monroe, your Jim Rons and the like, and therefore they're bringing principles out of those successful people, your Kiyosaki's, and then they use those and they've put together a tool that can be shaped into that. So I basically assist people with that. People who are worried, I'm in my 40s and I'm worried I haven't done anything. Where do I begin? That's where I come in and help structure that life.
And I remember you wrote a book with one of them.
Yes.
Tell us about your book.
Well, really exactly what happened is that when I came across the Map for Life, I was already in my journey of writing my own book. And then I came across this epic, already existing tool with Glenn Myckirk. So what happened is I then borrowed a lot from what Glenn has put together, okay, and then used that for my life coaching, because it is exactly on point. In terms of borrowing from cognitive psychology, he borrows from strategic planning, he borrows from project management. So he takes these three disciplines and brings them in together, and brings the best out of any individual.
And what exactly is the name of the book, and where can we find it?
The book is called Map for Life. Okay, it's found through our entity Learning and Growth consultants. We're also based in Maruapula, so I'm available as a local coach, and therefore the books are retail from me.
Let's go deeper. Let's talk about pillars of preparing a plan. Just so the viewer knows, it's motivation, obstacles, skills and knowledge requirements, association, network, and measurement.
Yeah.
I want us to go one by one.
One by one. Okay. So these 7 pillars. I once came up with a proverb in my journey as I was discovering my purpose and as I was planning, and the proverb goes like this, which is a proverb of my own. He who goes about life without a plan sows the winds of chaos, and will soon.
That's worth repeating.
Yes.
Can you say it?
He who goes about life without planning
Yes.
sows the seeds of confusion, and is about to reap the whirlwinds of confusion and humiliation. Okay.
Well said.
And it's coming from this point of view. And I'll use simple analogies. That building will crumble very fast if there was no plan. Crumble. 50 people just need to walk in there and that's the end of it.
Yeah.
So you can imagine when we say, by lack of planning, they have sowed a seed and a wind of confusion. Later on, that's going to lead into chaos.
A whirlwind of chaos.
A whirlwind of chaos and humiliation. So when we talk about these 7 steps, it's very important for the listener to listen very closely as to what exactly makes a goal what it ought to be, because there is some science behind it. And what I'm going to share is actually a cheat sheet. Okay, it's a cheat sheet that a lot of successful people use, and it's a cheat sheet that I've used. All my successes stem from this. Simply spoken, write the goal. Remember that you found your purpose. You've listed all the areas, things you want to do. You've prioritized them. Now you're honing into, these are the 10 things that I'm going to do this year. Now you're taking them one by one. You pull out the first one out of the bag and you write a statement in an affirmative way. Okay. In primary school, we all learned all those active words. So if it was a business, say, I am the CEO of such and such an entity, as though it's living and it is there. You
declare it as just like the Bible says. You declare it as though it were.
You declare it as though it were. Because when you do that, you're actually cooperating with your brain. Because that's how the brain works. So it's not just that when they say declare it as words, just no. There is psychology that comes behind that. So you're cooperating with your brain and readying yourself just by writing that statement in an affirmative way. And then the next thing that you ask yourself, for that goal to be solid, you ask yourself, what is the reward I'm going to get if I achieve this thing? Spell it out. Write it out, crystal, let it be crystal. What is the reward? Because you're motivating yourself.
It's funny, you reminded me of a talk that I gave last weekend where I demonstrated that one of the motivations for David slaying Goliath was the reward, which was becoming a prince, marrying a princess, and more specifically not paying taxes and potentially becoming a king.
What does that do to you towards achieving your goal? It
Yeah.
really helps you and motivates you, yes. So ask yourself, what is the reward? But also equally yourself, ask yourself the other side of the coin. What are the consequences if I don't achieve this goal? So that you know what's going to bite you if you don't achieve this thing, okay? And once you ask yourself those, you then also need to ask yourself, what are the potential obstacles? What are the things internal to me? Am I a procrastinator? Do I have some habits that are coming in my way? And those are potential obstacles that can stop me from achieving that goal, okay? External might be, I don't have enough resources, and so forth and so on. So obstacles, because right there, once again, you're cooperating with your brain. By the time you see that thing 100 kilometers away, you see it coming, the mind is already coming up with potential solutions of how to navigate it. And you're not hit by surprise and a shock.
No.
You know it up front. So you ask yourself the obstacles. The other thing is, for that business as an entrepreneur, or that goal for it to happen, ask yourself, what skills and knowledge do I have that I'm going to apply, that are inherent in me for this thing to happen? Okay. And then also ask yourself equally, which ones do I need and do I need to borrow from and apply myself to for this goal to happen? Then who has done it before? That's another thing that you need to ask. Who has done this before? That's when you then either join a club or a group of people, or identify a key individual who's been successful in that thing, and then get close to them, because you're going to cut your journey. Okay, this whole entrepreneurial journey, it's like going out for firewood.
Yes.
Now imagine going out for firewood with an axe that is not sharpened. Yeah, and then you go out there, and then here's your colleague who's going out with their axe sharpened. Yeah, you're going to come back from the field. He's going to have more firewood because his axe was sharp. You with a blunt axe, you're going to come back kama rope with your shoulders painful because you've been working hard. Okay.
This is so wise. You remind me of what Abraham Lincoln is reported to have said. He said that if you have 8 hours to cut a tree, spend the first 7 sharpening the axe.
There you go.
Or words to that effect.
Absolutely, there you go. Yeah, so when we say, as a pillar of entrepreneurship, find your purpose. This is the sharpening of the axe we're talking about. You're sharpened to your purpose. You have clarity around who you are. You've brainstormed the things you want to do. You've shortlisted them, and now you are now kind of getting into the science of, like we were saying, what is the statement, what are the obstacles, and so forth and so on. And that this way, like I said, it's a cheat sheet, really, of getting these things.
And association network is another one?
Yeah, that's the one we are talking about, that get help from the others. That's
measurement?
Okay, from a measurement point of view, now that you have stated this thing, okay, you can only measure something that you have executed. Okay, so the first thing that then comes is your execution plan. Okay, because you've stated this goal, and as part of execution, the first place to begin is a vision board.
Vision board.
Yeah, I keep emphasizing, cooperate with your brain, cooperate with the makeup of a person.
It rings a bell. We were just talking about it yesterday.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
There you go. If as a people, if we don't take time to understand this body, we don't take time to understand this brain, we're going to go about life going in the opposite direction when the brain wants to function in a particular way. And that's where we miss it. So for me, I have taken time just to understand.
So you say there are 4 ways to execute. Can you let us know what they are?
Yeah, so it begins with that vision board, because it's going to help you have a pictorial view of that. And then you do a literal project plan. So it's your tasks, then you have your start and end dates, then you say what resources are going to accomplish those specific tasks, right? And then once you have that, remember what I just spoke about in terms of your tasks, I spoke about tasks. I talk about start and end dates. It's start and end dates for the 8 life areas. Remember the harmony. You're not leaving back the harmony. You're not just running with your business and leaving behind family, your books that you need to read, your physical health. So each one of these things have plans. They all have plans. So the 4 pillars are that when the year begins, okay, let's assume 2021. I normally do my planning for 2021 November and December. Yeah, it takes me a whole 30 days for me to execute a full year.
Like 60 days, November and December.
Yeah. Well, the reason I say November and December, it's not that I use every day, but you have at times you brainstorm, you let it cool, you reflect, you let it cool, and until you really are clear on what it is that you're going to do. Because these 4 things then come into play. For me, by 25th December, you have a visual picture of what your entire year is going to look like. That's the first thing. You have a visual picture of your entire year. So that's the first pillar.
Is it just a series of things you're going to do? Or when you say a visual picture, it's just the list of accomplishments you would have come up with?
No. Yes, no. Remember, you have planned for 8 life areas, and each one of them have starts and end dates, each one of these things. So you're basically taking all these things and putting them into a year calendar and saying, I'm going to do this with family in such and such a month. I'm going to build that house at such and such a month. I'm going to lock in this business opportunity in such and such a month. I'm going to go on holiday in such and such a month. I'm going to be reading this book. And so that's what I'm talking about. So you've got a visual picture of the full year.
Oh, okay.
Up front.
And results, record of results.
Yes.
How do you monitor those results, and how do you keep a record?
Exactly. So once you have that first year, then when the month begins, you borrow the activities that are taking place in January, and that's where the recording starts. So as you record the activities that are playing and by the way, this is at the beginning of January. So it's at the beginning of the year, you've got a full picture. At the beginning of January, you've got a full picture of what January is going to look like. In there, you start recording key things. What is my month? How am I going to be spending my time? What is my routine? Do I read in the mornings or do I exercise early morning?
Let me take advantage of your presence here to ask you a question. I'm thinking of positioning our business in such a way that there is a speaking business. We want to position myself as a speaker and then work with other speakers. In the context of what you're saying, and the cheat sheet that you mentioned, how can we go about it and achieve it in the next 12 months using the framework you've defined? Okay.
First thing, like we said, write exactly that. We want to have or rather, we conduct speaking events as part of Mogobe Incorporated. That's the first thing.
We conduct entrepreneurship speaking events as part of
Mogobe Incorporated, right? Now you're going to ask yourself, what is the reward of doing that?
Yes.
And then you list it. What are the consequences if you don't, right?
The reward is simple. The satisfaction of empowering others and then using our skill set to also make a difference in our bottom line.
Precisely. So you've already addressed the elements of skill set and knowledge. And then you said, I want to do it with others. That is where that element of who has done it before. Who else can I join hands with? And you fit it in there. Okay. And then you ask yourself.
Maybe people like yourself, people like Mohammed France and so on.
Okay, great. We'll be humbled to support that type of a thing. Because I'm great. I'm about that as well.
Yes.
You must ask me at the end what my purpose statement is.
Well, I'm going to ask you sooner than you think. Let's finish answering that question.
So once you have that, and like I said, you then have to clearly list the type of topical areas you want to be covered throughout 2021, and then say which month are they going to happen. And then the resourcing element, who on this particular speaking or topical area, who are the speakers that I want. Okay, so by the time 2021 comes, and the audience as well, by the time 2021 comes, before January, you've got this plan, and you know the type of support team whether you need an event organizer, whether you need this, you've got all that
I
in
already
place.
have a PA who does that.
Precisely.
Yeah.
So you can imagine that when January comes, it's not time where we're asking each other, so guys, which topic are we covering? Kana, are you able to get those chairs? Are you able to? No. By that time, it's time for execution. And that's what brings about success.
Okay. Confronting the enabler called money. You want to define money as an enabler.
Yes.
And you think it needs to be confronted.
Yes.
That's a very interesting choice of phrase.
Yeah.
I want you to take us through the phraseology and explain it.
Look, I think what we have to all know, and I use the word know because it's something we know but we don't know. We are all born financially free.
We are all born financially free.
Yes.
All of us. In the sense that?
We are born without money, and we're not entangled by money.
When we come into the
world, yeah. Okay, so we're all born financially free. Now, right there, unfortunately, we quickly forget that. You see, because it is that freedom that suddenly enables you to achieve your goals. Because, and the reason we use, I say confront, is because a lot of people are entangled in debt and year on year unable to achieve goals because they can't be resourced. Money as an enabler can't enable those things to happen. So the place to be is where you are free. Okay, the place to be is where you are free. So what we do is assist people, because what happens is people get frustrated and they, you know how it is, you attend a great motivational talk or you read a great book and then you are heated up and you see that thing alive, but reality strikes, boom. You don't have no cash. So there's no way as a life coach I can leave without helping you and assisting you untangle yourself from there. So it's simple. So
you confront it as an enabler.
You confront it as an enabler, okay? Because failure should not be an option. It should never be an option. So you one way or the other, even if it takes you 2-3 years to be financially free before something happens, then that's what it has to be. Work on it. So you identify the debt. You start asking yourself the question, how much is this costing me? How many installments do I have left? Is there possibility for a settlement amount? Okay, and then what you then do, look at all those debts, and then you start asking yourself, okay, maybe let me begin with the easier ones, the ones that are small amounts. Clear those out. Once you clear those out, in the following month, you live as though that debt still exists. All you do is you divert that amount to the next debt, so that you have a bigger lump sum to clear this one. And in that way you become, let's assume you have 4 debts that are blocking you and you've been entangled for years. Clear the simple ones, take that extra 1,000 when you are done with this debt, put it in here. So if I've been paying 3,000 here and I'm now paying 4,000, so which means I'm going to quickly get rid of this. When I finish this one, which was 4,000, I take the 4,000 and the 1,000. I can go with talk. I'm still struggling.
You're still living as though you're struggling.
You're
still struggling.
And now you have 5,000. Now you've got this monster one that's been staring at your face. But so guess what? You now have 10 grand that you can quickly be putting in here. Within a year or so, you're free.
Wow.
And then you die.
Easy. Is it similar to what Jeff Ramsey talks about when he talks about debt consolidation, with the objective of living totally debt free?
It's part of that, yes. It's part of that. Because like I was saying, as a pillar of success, money is an enabler. And it's very, very frustrating today. The
reason I'm asking you this, I keep bringing it, is some are thinking in terms of consolidating the debts, debt consolidation, and then dealing with it as one. But you seem to be saying something slightly different, that deal with them one by one, or...
Yes. I see where the slight difference is. Yes, there are different approaches to it. The challenge with the consolidate one is it also tends to come with a cost. You don't see it. All it does is, in my opinion, is it kind of lessens the burden from saying I'm paying, let's say, 5,000, and it suddenly reduces it, and I'm now paying 1,000. Now, the slight challenge that comes there is that being a human being, I might now want to still increase my living expenses. You see, yeah, and my freedom is going to be longer, as opposed to if I deal with the smaller debts first, I clear them, they're out of the way. I still live though as they are existing, but all I'm doing is diverting that 1,000 onto the next one, so that I have a bigger lump sum. So in that way, I'm buying my freedom a lot faster.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good. What do you say to those who use the expression that it's never about resources, it's always about resourcefulness? It's never really about the money itself, it's about how resourceful you are as an entrepreneur.
Yes, that is why we begin with purpose, because you know, purpose, passion for me are synonyms, because this is where the resourcefulness comes and the lack of resources. If my strength is around leadership or management, where does money come in there, honestly speaking? If my strength is around strategy, where does money come in there? There's no money. All I'm doing is using my resourcefulness, my mind, my inherent abilities and skills. If I'm, let's say, a piano player, what stops me from calling people into a hall, just have 20 people, or even use this restaurant and I tell you, Mogobe, can I be coming every Tuesday to come and entertain your clients? You see, I'm using my inherent skills, so I'm being resourceful in that way. I'm not depending on money, and therefore I'm using my resourcefulness to create the money. That's how I view it.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah.
Okay, you sort of hinted that you want to touch on your purpose, or you sort of teased me to ask you, but I have to ask you, what would you describe as your purpose in the context of what you're talking about? Remember, we're talking about planning as a tool for entrepreneurial success.
Yeah. Well, for me, my journey eventually honed into this in terms of defining my purpose. I have come to provide knowledge and support so that people may grow and achieve their dreams while I achieve mine. Okay.
It's a very beautiful way of putting it.
Yeah. So I have come to impart knowledge and provide support so that other people may achieve their dreams while I achieve mine. And that to me is my guiding pillar. So that is why even with my employees, I really drill people to come out. Who are you? What were you born to do? Whether it's in my executive coaching sessions, whether it's in my management consultancies, I push. Let's come out. Let's bring the best out of us. Let's bring that potential out. But suddenly you might find that here's unique talent, and because you've mentored that unique talent, suddenly there's synergies that come between you. So whilst they're living their dream, we might come up with a business idea that we're both running, and therefore as they live their dream, I'm living mine as well.
Okay.
And then we're conquering life. Yeah.
Okay, you've used yourself as a success story of someone I mentored. I'm just curious, in the 15 years since we did our mentoring, and who have you, without necessarily mentioning names, can you give examples of one or two people you have mentored and mention the success or the difference that you've impacted them, you've had in their lives, how you've impacted them? Sure,
it's quite a number, more than 10.
Yes.
Clearly, who I can point out. But there's one young man who speaks to me the most. He's an artist, and the frustration of the education system not being able to recognize people's talents early enough, and one may not necessarily be a fit academically, but excellent in other natural talented abilities. So him and I then sat down. I took him through a series of coaching sessions. And he is flying right now. Go to Kasani. He's the brand to go. He's no longer getting paid in pula. He's getting paid in dollars, because when tourists come and see his artwork and his representation of his environment, they see epic art and they just decide,
And how exactly did you turn him from a rough and cut diamond into a gem?
It's through a series of coaching. I normally do 20 coaching sessions. So it was through a series of sessions where we sat down and literally, and I normally begin with the basics. Let's address bread and butter issues first. Yeah, because and it's borrowing from Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Yeah.
Let's address the bread and butter issues first. And so I normally clear that out so that somebody has clarity now on the goal. They can't get being disturbed by I can't pay this, I don't have food, I don't have transport. And all. So I clear that out first. So that's the journey I went through with him. And then at times I do take a risk. Which is normally not encouraged in coaching, but at times I do take a risk and
I'll
help.
put that argument to rest by saying nothing significant ever happens without significant risk. So
There you
please
go.
embrace risk.
Yeah. No, it's just that they also bring it from an ethics point of view to say let the person lead out their life. Okay, but at times people need assistance and they need help. So where I have a strong belief and a strong connection, I would then chip in
What
and
was the
assist.
risk?
So the risk I took was then in diversifying his creative ability. And myself being an IT person, I then took and bought a set of digital equipment and then gave it to him and said, look, in the digital era and the era that we're living in, if you diversify your art, you're also building for the future. Okay? And unfortunately, he couldn't fit within the digital space of creativity. Even though we did a few online courses with him, but he couldn't fit there. However, he still flew and is flying around his other piece of artwork. So that's one example. There's another one who I've groomed, and I'm still grooming for 2 years. An excellent planner, strategic person. And I'm just and now he's moved into the management consultancy space. So he's able to engage with executives now and be able to talk strategic issues around taking a business from one level to the other. So maybe I could cite those two for now.
Yeah, as we get closer to the end of our time together, first I want you to commit you'll come back again. To cover other topics. Secondly, I would like to give you an opportunity to ask me a question. This is a part of the show where you get to ask the host any question. I always say within reason, but any question that you may wish to ask.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think the question I would have for you would really be around what are the financial, no, not the financial, but the building blocks that for you, in terms of your successes, particularly around property and all the other businesses that you run, what were the things you did that were a foundation for you?
Without question, personal development.
Okay.
And this is in terms of, attending seminars, reading books, exposing myself to the knowledge that is out there. The Bible says, where there's no knowledge, the people perish. So these are basic understanding of that. And then the discovery that one of the best entrepreneurial books, or two of the best entrepreneurial books, are hidden in the Bible, in the book of Ecclesiastes and the book of Proverbs.
Yeah, thought as much.
Yeah, of course the other books do cover that, but here just the gems are non-stop. You could easily take these two books out of the Bible and then add them to your personal development library. So I internalize some of the learnings there. For instance, there are 3 times where Solomon explicitly says, never sign a surety even for a friend.
Yes.
Never co-sign as a surety. That one is a basic. And when my mentor, I won't mention his name, was telling me that he was wiped out completely because of signing a surety. In fact, 2 of my mentors, Jim Rowe talks about it, and then my mentor next door talks about it. I said to myself, I've been saved from this
by listening.
I didn't sign a surety, because a lot of deals, people came and said, "Come sign here, come on, it doesn't matter, give your house." So exposing myself to knowledge, personal development, and internalizing the entrepreneurial knowledge and wisdom that is contained in the Bible. I think that is the key.
That for you was key.
Yeah.
And then the financial base, what was it you used?
This came from just understanding that you want to avoid debt when you're starting. So I was lucky enough to work very aggressively and build up a cash base to be able to invest and not take risk of debt at an early stage. The properties that we bought when we started were almost cash deals, most of them. So that really helped, because once it got to a point where there was a tipping point where there was a significant base where I can now do other things, I can get into the nuggets, I can do coaching and spend more time with other endeavors when I know that the base is more or less set. My job is just to stabilize and to ensure growth. That to me is the answer.
Okay, great. I can relate to some of that, absolutely.
Okay, now you have to look at that camera, sir, and talk to that specific viewer. Just that one young entrepreneur, give them words of wisdom, words of inspiration, of empowerment, just as a takeaway from this conversation.
I think I'll say two statements. One is that you are born for a purpose that the world cannot do without. Therefore, run and chase that purpose. That's the first thing. The second thing is that everything that has been said in this podcast, all the tidbits that I shared, come to nothing without this one word. And that word is called discipline. If one is not disciplined to follow through in pursuing certain things, you will not achieve anything. So discipline is key, and it is actually the only differentiator between successful people and those that are not successful. Discipline. That's my small words of wisdom to the listener.
Okay, the people who may be watching may be interested in your coaching services and your other services. Kindly share the contact details for that purpose.
All right, so we are located in Marashpula Shopping Complex, just above Choppies, and you will find there learning and growth consultants. You will find H&H boutique. You will find H&H salon, and right there our contacts are 74787019. 74787019. That number is contactable via your normal telephone line, and also in addition it's also contactable via WhatsApp. And then our landline is 311-2863, 311-2863. But we're also available on Facebook, so check out our Facebook pages.
Which names?
Well, the boutique and the salon side are clearly there on Facebook, so just search for H&H Salon or H&H Boutique, you'll find them there. And then the consultancy, we're in the telephone directory as well, so learning and growth consultants, you'll find us there.
All right, it remains for me, sir, to thank you, Mr. Sebonego, for taking the time out. You've been an excellent guest, informative, detailed, and very generous. I appreciate that you embraced my coaching, quote unquote, and my encouragement, and you threw yourself into the deep end, and look at the results over the last 15 years. Thank you so much for also honoring the invitation and coming to Mogobe Nuggets of Wisdom podcast.
I'm actually also equally thankful. Like you said, had that push not come 15 years ago, I wouldn't be where I am. And thanks for being, I also need to thank myself for being wise, to listen and execute and move. And the rest is really history. So thanks to you as well.
Okay. Thank you very much.